Good day, everyone. You have fallen into another episode of Critical Mess, the podcast where three buds in the ad business talk about movies that critics and audiences don't agree on. You are here for episode Yo-11. I am Nick Honeywell, and I am here with a couple other fellas. One's name is Grizz Griswold, otherwise known as Andrew. The other, Mr. Brian McCullough. We've also got producer Ben. Gentlemen, greet our listener with a hearty welcome.
Did you say Yo-11?
Yeah, like craps. Yo-11. Give me the yo.
I don't know what that means.
I went straight
Hey,
over
everybody,
my head.
this is Brian. And I promise I'll stop doing this when I get to 10, but my 8th favorite movie of all time is Back to the Future.
Ooh, great pick. And this is Grizz. What's up, gang?
All right, we're going to start with an icebreaker, as we always do. Tonight's icebreaker question. It's a simple one, and it's one that I think is going to cause controversy right off the bat. We'll see. We'll see. The question: who is the most overrated actor or actress? And I can start if you guys need a moment.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
So I shall. So I'm going to go with Keanu Reeves. And I know that might be a little controversial, and I also think that Keanu seems like an absolutely awesome dude overall. A kind and generous dude who is into super cool shit, like vintage motorcycles, and he's just super cool. I'll totally give him that. But not a very good actor. I'm sorry. I think he's mediocre at best. Horrible at worst. I'm sure maybe some of us have seen Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is kind of a fun movie. But he's just really, really hard to watch and listen to in that movie, in my humble opinion. But I love the guy. Guy seems great.
Did you buy his southern accent on The Devil's Advocate?
No, I don't buy any of his acting really at all.
He's typically one-dimensional, and his portrayal in Speed is who he is and always should be, and that's kind of how he is in The Matrix, John Wick.
He's kind of Tom Cruise-y in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although Tom Cruise is a much better actor.
I agree with that. Yes.
No, it's a great pick. I really can't think of anybody, but having just someone ask me who was a better action star or actor was Tom Cruise or, why am I spacing his name? Keanu Reeves. Like, who was a better actor or action star? And I was like, obviously Tom Cruise. I wouldn't think I would ever pick Keanu Reeves other than Matrix as his big break. But
What? Keanu Reeves in Matrix?
Oh,
yeah.
no,
No.
no.
Break.
Tom,
Yeah.
But I don't know. That was his only role that I can even think of that was, worthwhile? I don't know.
Without getting too into like what does it mean to be a good actor, because I take a little bit of exception to the Keanu Reeves.
I knew you would.
I take a little bit of exception because I see where you're coming from, but I have many more picks that would trump that. But I got to go Angelina Jolie, and I'm not sure if it's because she just always has this smug look on her face. She's not good. And
Is it because she was handed her acting history from her
Is it because of her
family?
dad?
Yeah.
John Voight?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't
Maybe.
care. She just needs to not be in anything else. A close second is Keira Knightley, and a close third would be Edward Norton. I think he's
Ooh,
highly
hot take.
overrated.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that's kind of a hot take.
That is
Keira
a-
Knightley, I totally agree with. Did you see Atonement?
Can I retract everything I just said about Edward Norton? Can we go back 10
Nope.
seconds and pretend
You already said
we
that.
live in that
No,
time?
it's on the record now.
Yep.
Shit. Ben?
Yeah.
We both said
It's a
Okay, yeah, but anyway,
Glass Onion,
you said Keira
absolutely.
Knightley?
Yeah, I just for some reason I just think of Atonement. and
Atonement
there's
wasn't good?
Just scrubbing her hands. It was just so awful. I hated that movie.
I didn't like Atonement either.
Yeah, a lot of people liked it, not me.
Good question. I like this question better than the pet question. Sorry for giving you guff on that one.
Oh no problem. Yeah, we're working on it. Better icebreakers every week, guys.
That was
we're
a
working
solid
on
one.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, so tonight we are talking about a movie that many of us adored as kids. Not me, because I didn't see it as a child, but we'll get into that a little bit. This movie came out in 1990, at the dawn of a new decade, and it was the kind of the first big screen foray for this massive franchise. So, we are talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or as I called them as a kid, Teenage Mutant Ninja Toidles. This movie stars Judith Hoag, Elias Koteas, Jay Patterson, Raymond Serra, and plenty of other people you probably haven't heard of. Someone you may have heard of in this film, though I'm curious if you guys picked up on this.
Can I, before you say it,
Mm-hmm.
can I just say I didn't look at any of the casting, but two of the turtles sounded like people to me. Leonardo sounded like Matthew Broderick, and Donatello sounded like Corey Feldman.
Yeah, it was Corey Feldman.
Was
Corey?
it?
It was Corey Feldman.
Feldman.
Yes.
But not Matthew Broderick?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, okay. I'm not crazy. All right.
So the person that's in this movie that I think we all probably know that you might be a little surprised by is a young Sam Rockwell.
Oh, he's the
Absolutely.
guy?
Yeah.
He's like the head thug.
He's like the head,
he
yeah.
gets unmasked. He's like
Yeah.
I liked him.
the unmasked gang member.
I totally forgot he was in this, and I was really surprised that was him. But I remember that role so specifically because he was like the ringleader, if you will, like
Yeah, as a
bringing the
kid-
kids in.
As a kid, that he stuck out to me for some reason.
What did he say? Like Pall Malls or menthol? Or what did he say? Menthol or whatever? When
Want
he like,
Wrigley
hands
or
him
menthol?
Yeah.
the cigarettes.
Yep.
Boxes of them.
And then he kind of has the arc at the end where he tells the cops, check the East Warehouse on,
Great.
some island.
Yeah, great turn for that character.
Nice.
So the voice work for the Turtles and Splinter, that stuff's mostly done by relatively unknown people as well, with the exception of Corey Feldman. It was directed by Steve Barron, and he is mostly known as a music video director. He, fun fact, directed Billie Jean, Michael Jackson, for example. Written by Todd Langen and Bobby Herbeck and adapted from an original comic book that was done by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. And I think one thing that's really worth noting about this movie is that it was an independent movie. I don't know.
One of the highest grossing of all time.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, not financed by a major studio, but it's kind of ironic because it was financed by New Line Cinema, which was the production company, which is, of course, now a major studio.
Yep.
New Line? I think.
Or it's like, was it Warner Brothers now or something?
New Line's they got. Yeah,
well, I think they were absorbed
Yeah.
or there's some. They didn't like disintegrate or anything. I'm pretty sure they
Yeah,
were.
they did.
I think it might be Warner Brothers, but yeah, check me on that. Anyway, so this movie had a pretty reasonable budget for this kind of thing. It was $13.5 million back in 1990, so not too crazy. Made a ton of money, over $200 million, so a huge success, and that probably explains all the shitty sequels. So, just a quick refresher for our listener about the criteria for our movies and the criteria for the movies we talk about. The movie must be fresh with critics and rotten with audiences, or vice versa, and the disparity needs to be at least 20% or so. So we can, of course, cheat on that if we want to. So on Rotten Tomatoes, this particular film has a fairly rancid 41% rating with critics and a pretty healthy 81% with audiences. So we've got a pretty big discrepancy on this one.
Really
So-
surprising to me.
Yeah, a little surprising to me too. Yeah, but we're gonna get into it, and there will be many spoilers. So you've been warned. So all right, let's chat. What was our first exposure to this film, and how many times have we seen it over the years?
I went with my best friend's family, our family and their family together as an event. I was 8 years old. The 10 of us went. Well, maybe not the youngest. So it would have been like 8 of us went to see it at the theater, and the projector broke right when the theater was getting ready to start. So we all had to move. Our entire theater clamored into the theater next door, which was starting at the same time for some reason, or maybe a little bit, maybe 15 minutes later or something. And we were crammed in the front row, and it was a packed house. And man, it delivered. I loved it. And I've seen it so many times. I can probably quote the entire movie start to finish. So I don't have a number for you.
Yeah, I had older cousins, older brother, older, uncles were very into this kind of like the new age technology for gaming and movies and stuff like that. So I watched this very early on. So it had to have been probably right around when the second one came out in 91, 92. So I was very familiar with this film. It was kind of hilarious how much I do remember, like some of the small little tiny things in the background, the small characters, all those things. But yeah, I remember watching this countless times as a kid. So fond memories.
So yeah, I never saw this as a kid. I was
Were you Amish?
no, I was not allowed. Basically, I was not allowed to play with Ninja Turtles.
Sounds very familiar
Yeah,
to
really?
Professor Ben.
And Ben wasn't either. So which made me want to play with Ninja Turtles so much more.
Was it just Ninja Turtles, or was it G.I. Joes, Transformers?
Well, I don't want to get too into. I had lovely parents, but
Come on, Ken.
I was allowed to play with like G.I. Joes, which makes no fucking sense because they have like machine guns and tanks and bombing planes and like and like what are these, like some goofy turtles like with a little sword? Or
They were
a
ninjas,
little
dude. You're not
stick?
allowed to play with karate and ninjas.
Hey, good for them for drawing a line, as arbitrary as it was.
There was a line. There was a line. So anyway, I never really saw the movie. I think I might have seen like 15 minutes of it at a birthday party or something, but I definitely never like actually sat down and watched it until, strangely, coincidentally, just a few months ago, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I don't even know why. I just realized I'd never seen it before and just went and got ordered a pepperoni pizza and got a 6-pack and just, sat there and watched the movie. And it was pretty good. I mean, we're going to get into what we thought of it here in 1 second. But, especially for a movie that old, and I mean, my expectations were admittedly low, but I enjoyed it. And then, of course, I just watched it again here last night for the podcast. So kind of an interesting perspective. I loved the Ninja Turtles, but I had never seen the film until very recently. So
real quick, what did you love? Like, did you play the video games? Did you watch the cartoons, comics, the later movies? Like, how did you love them since you didn't actually see the movie?
Yeah, definitely playing with the action figures at my friends' houses because I wasn't allowed to have them.
Forbidden fruit. Okay, so
right.
The allure.
And definitely video game. When I was a little older and my parents didn't give a shit, when I was like, 12 or something, This was when I was like, this movie came out when I was 7.
Yeah, I was 8.
But, if I was like 11 or 12, the video games, yeah, for sure were a big part of it. Okay, so yeah, let's rate the movie. What did you guys think out of 100?
A solid 85 is my rating. Yeah, pretty high.
Yeah, that's very high.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at an 80.
Ooh,
you and I have just really been
very
synced
high.
up.
Yeah, okay, 80 is pretty solid for. Yeah, I was expecting you to be in the 60s or something.
No, I'm at an 80. This movie is just, it's just earnest. It's tonally perfect, and it also takes risks that I really respect.
Yeah, this is going to sound harsh, but I'm giving it a 68. I liked it. I don't think it's a great movie, but I enjoyed myself and I had fun. But yeah, I don't think it's any type of great movie. And I can almost guarantee if I saw this when it came out, I'd be giving it like a fucking 97.
That's what I'm worried about with my 80. I'm worried, is it really a 68 to me, but then all my memories is an 80?
Nope.
And I really tried to be objective when I watched it yesterday, and I feel like I was.
I was super objective. I still feel pretty good about my 85. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of fun. And I also was like a huge fan of the comics and the toys and all the marketing behind it well before the movie came out. So I think that's because the cartoon came out in the 80s. So I was watching that, had all the action figures and bought many of them. So I remember one of the first toys I ever bought with my own money was $100. And it was a 4-foot tall, like Ninja Turtle. And it was Michelangelo, because that was obviously my favorite. So I bought it. It was $100 at the time. It had been mid-90s, something like that.
Dude, remember when you were a kid that age,
Yeah.
spending $100 on something was like
$89.99 or something crazy like that. But it was like a 3 or 4 foot tall, but it had like the texture, and you could feel it. Like, it felt just like what the characters felt like in the movie. Like you could see like the textures on his skin, and yeah, it was awesome.
Oh, you bragged to your friends about the first time you drop a $100.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. My brothers. Yeah.
You are listening to Critical Mess. We are talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 1990 version. I'm here with Brian, Grizz, and Ben. And we are sponsored tonight, once again, by Modelo. #1 beer in America.
Just
one.
to remind everyone.
I've got a dual sponsorship.
And we do have another sponsor tonight as well. We're splitting that sponsorship with Woodford Reserve. Thank you, Woodford, for being you. Let's get into the review stuff a little bit. I want to talk about why critics and audiences do not agree on this film. And they really don't agree on this film because we have a pretty huge disparity. So I want to talk about why and maybe pull a couple reviews and see what's cooking here.
I think the biggest through line that I found in the audience was, hey, I watched this when I was a kid and now I rewatched it with my kids and it really holds up. A lot of this is fun, good time, good movie, solid story type of stuff. And then through line for the critics was, well, I'll read the consensus on Rotten Tomatoes because that kind of speaks volumes. It says Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is exactly as advertised. One-liners, brawls, and general silliness. Good for the young at heart, irritating for everyone else. And that was a general sentiment from the critics, was that this is just I think that they thought it was a kid's movie. We hit on this with Hook. We said, was Hook a kid's movie? Was it a family movie? What's the difference? Is there a difference? Was it either of those? And I think I would put TMNT in the same ballpark as Hook. I don't think it's just a kid movie. And I think that because of a lot of the creative risks it took, the gritty and dark nature of it, the language in it, the violence. There's a lot of stuff in it that's like, if you're gonna make a kid, because you can make a lot of money if you make kids movies. That's why it's a whole industry. You get the built-in audience of the kids. If you take risks like this and put stuff in it to where a big segment of kids are not going to want to see it or are not allowed to see it, you're dropping a big source of revenue. And so I think that this movie intentionally was not a kids movie. It was intentionally for the family and everyone. Yep. And that's why I think that I disagree with that consensus, but I think that is a very common sentiment for the critics.
Yeah, I think what's funny is because this was a joke. These two producers that made the comics for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it was a complete joke. They made it as they just saw as far as they could go with this creation of turtles, ninjas, the Shredder, all these things. They made it all up, and they thought, oh, nobody will ever make this.
Oh, really?
And so they made the comics. They had Frank Miller illustrate it, so it was super dark. It was very gritty. It was black and white with the splashes of color. That's where the red, orange, blue, and purple came from. And then, I just thought it was awesome that they did that because the cartoon became completely for children. It was super high saturated. It was very goofy, cowabunga. And then I'm so glad they went super gritty. I remember starting the film last night with the kids, and I rewatched it today, but I watched it last night, and just how much grain and grit and disgusting New York City looked. It felt like Taxi Driver.
New York City is one of the greatest characters in this movie.
Yeah, I was like, but the grain and like how disgusting the frame was, and like how dirty they made it, and like just the production design on it was just unbelievable. At least for me, I thought it felt very reminiscent of those early comics. My brother has some of the original prints from like some of those early comic book covers from Frank Miller and stuff. So it's always cool to like see those and how far it's come.
What did we think? Sorry, did we want to pop a couple of reviews here?
I mean, I'm just going to read maybe two of them.
Yeah, let's do it.
Chicago Tribune, Gene Siskel, the cynicism of the motion picture industry will be apparent to any child who is exposed to the many product plugs for a nationwide pizza delivery company. So he's talking about, he's docking the movie for having product placement in it. Okay? That seems, sorry, but that's...
Especially at that time.
That seems a little superficial.
Yeah, but they also shit on their own movies. It was New Line Cinema shitting on Critters. That was my favorite part when Raph says he's going to go to the movies and he walks out of Critters and said it was garbage. That was their own movie. It came out 3 or 4 years before. I had to look it up because I knew it came out before, but it was funny that they just gave their own shit to themselves.
And can I just point out real quick, I did see this. Ebert, though, actually gave it like a okay review. He gave it 2.5 out of 4 and said it was basically as good as it could be. Which I think is interesting. But Siskel
he says this movie is nowhere near as bad as it might have been, and probably is the best possible Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And then I'll read one more. Jay Boyer from the Orlando Sentinel. What troubles me about TMNT is it's basically an exploitation movie aimed at young children. Is that because of the regular menthols and the skating and or is that because of the Domino's pizza place? What's he talking about? Exploitation movie?
Yeah, it's gotta be because it was Splinter and that whole Foot Clan was bringing these teenagers in that felt like they were discarded into this world of drugs and gambling.
Well, yeah, can we talk about Shredder's hideout for 1 second? Because I definitely wanted to bring that up because
I wanted to be there when I was a kid.
Oh my! Was that not literally that? I mean, I want to be there now.
Yes, was it cooler than the Lost Boys world? Right? Yeah, I think it was.
Oh, right? Way cool. It had a pinball. It had a high speed. It had a getaway pinball machine in it. I think.
Of course, you spot the pinball
slot machines.
Slot machines.
All sorts of gambling.
And man, I'll tell you guys, there's a scene in that movie where they're showing those kids playing poker, and like they're all like somebody wins, and the kids like throw down their cards all mad.
Did you pause?
Those were the coolest kids in my mind. Ever. I wanted to be those kids so bad.
Did you pause and see that they all had nothing, but that one kid had a full house, and they were all mad that they had nothing? But that kid had a full house.
I mean, that's kind of realistic because they're kids. They're still kids.
They had no idea what was going on.
I love how that look like 11-year-old kid's got that fat stogie just smoking it.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, the cigarettes everywhere. There's video game, like arcade cabinets.
Skateboarding, which is countercultural then.
Boxes and boxes of stolen goods.
Yeah, electronics. And like seriously, that was and is the coolest place.
Absolutely,
I've ever
100%
seen.
agree. And it held up. I thought, I was like, this is going to be real corny now when I watch it. I'm like, no, I want to go there right now. Where's a place that I can go, pay a cover charge, walk down some stairs, and be offered regular menthols?
I feel like we should. I feel like this is a $1 billion business idea. We opened a business that just has like cigarettes and video games and gambling and all the things we just went, skateboarding, all the things we just went over. Kind of like a block party. You guys remember Block Party?
Mm-mm.
No.
Sounds familiar.
It was like the Blockbuster entry into like the big kind of it was like an arcade and it was like an adult like what was the place
kind
called?
of like Dave and Buster's. I don't know.
Yeah, it was kind of like Dave and Buster's. What was the place where you crawl through the like the plastic pipes?
Discovery
like
Zone?
Leaps and bounds?
Yeah,
Discovery
Discovery
Zone.
Zone.
Yes. They had like an adult Discovery Zone or whatever, which there was a lot of other discovering going on in that zone. If you know what I'm talking about. But
I just recently saw a Discovery Zone meme where somebody was selling all of the equipment from a Discovery Zone, like an old Discovery Zone on
gosh.
Facebook Marketplace.
they should burn that shit. I guarantee there's some
Reuse
like
that.
Ebola on that. I wouldn't get any from
Yeah, but
50 feet.
but
of
that hideout, you're right to call that out, and then there's the next layer down below that of once these kids are sort of defiled enough or indoctrinated enough, now they're going down to that next layer of like
Right.
training martial arts. Is that maybe that's what they mean by exploitation? I don't know,
Well,
but
yeah, I
either
mean,
way,
it was
that's not
adults-
bad. It was
yeah.
that is a. I'm gonna tell you this: that some studio exec, or maybe not studio exec because it was independent. Some person made the decision to go hard on that.
Yeah.
And good job, because that really adds gravitas to the movie and makes it not a kid movie, to be honest.
Yeah, I would strongly. I think the way they went with this and how dark they made it, how gritty, like how they shot it. Obviously, the turtles were fun. They had their like teenage feel, like they had the language, the lingo, whatever. But man, I'm so glad they went and risked it all. And then, holy shit, they got Jim Henson to come in and do the puppets for all these guys, which I guess that was a battle of their own to try to get him to come in because he thought it was negligent to go and promote violence to children. So even he was hesitant to do it. So it's kind of insane to think.
And this movie definitely does promote violence to children. I mean,
I
wanted
just
to
signed
be a
up for
ninja.
karate. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
I think this is the movie that infected me with ninja, with how cool it is, how martial arts. I mean, I had seen Karate Kid as well, but I think that the 1-2 punch of those, I was all into the whole martial arts ninja appeal.
So you're listening to Critical Mess. We're talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And my next question for these two gentlemen is what of the theme? What was the theme of this movie? And I didn't do a lot of deep thinking about this beforehand, but I'll start with just, initially kind of what I think it is, and you guys can tell me I'm wrong. But first of all, there's a certain element of like, believing in yourself, and maybe actually more accurately, it's maybe more like it's that plus like the virtue of just being like a good sort of righteous entity that helps people, in need. It's kind of how the movie starts. It's it's the Blake Snyder save the cat moment, right, where April is sort of attacked in this alleyway, and by the Foot Clan, and the turtles kind of swoop in and save her, right? And we immediately love the turtles because they saved this beautiful young woman, and they did it selflessly, and they didn't take anything, in return, you know what I mean? And there was no real reason why why they should help her. And so anyways, I think that idea kind of permeated the movie, I guess, in my opinion. But what do you guys think?
I definitely think the theme is what balances the grittiness of the movie out. Without such strong positive themes in this movie, it really would have been a dark movie. But I don't think overall it's dark because the messaging and themes are so strong. I've got 3. The student master theme. With Splinter and the turtles, you have the whole training and you have the whole learning. It's kind of like Yoda and Luke a little bit, kind of. That's a very strong theme in this movie. Brotherhood and teamwork. So you have the whole Raphael character arc, and then you've got the rest of them, and they're only able to be victorious when they all 4 come together.
Friendship is definitely a theme.
Friendship, yeah, absolutely,
for sure.
And those are 2 very strong themes. And then I've got probably the strongest one is redemption. And you got Danny's side story.
Yeah, no kidding.
He goes from being this little weasel stealing money to now he kind of saves the day.
I mean, he is the character arc, is
Yeah.
he not?
He's one of 1, 2, He's one of 6 character arcs.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I've ranked them in terms of strength, and he's the
Wow.
3rd strongest
So,
character
yeah, don't
arc
forget
to me.
Sam Rockwell. He was one. I had him down as a character arc.
Yeah. I
But-
didn't even have him on one of my 6.
Oh
but I
my
agree.
gosh, really?
know.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I had the Sun.
He
and then
totally
I
is,
had Sam
you're right.
Rockwell, and I had Raph and stuff like that. Like
Raphael's the strongest.
Yes, I think he was the main one. But you hit it with. I had family, the father-son dynamic, but he has 4 kids in Splinter. I think that was that kept coming up with the fire, talk. The talk in the very beginning where you learn like the immediate when you meet all 4 ninjas and they come into that room. It was like the greatest character building that I'd ever seen. I was not expecting it because all 4 of them have their own personalities.
You're talking about when they're saying like Donatello's like Bossa Nova, and they're like,
yes,
huh?
yeah. So
Yeah.
he's smarter because
You're
he
right.
listens
They introduced
to
him
jazz.
so good
and
there.
so they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, Chevy Nova or whatever it is." And then you have Michelangelo while Splinter's giving his big speech and talking to them about values and all these things, and he's back there ordering pizza, ignoring everything. And then you have Raphael being pissed off and angered at the world, and then Donatello is on his knees, immediately looking directly at Splinter, like learning everything he can from him. So you learned everything about him.
Was probably Leonardo, right?
Or sorry, Leonardo.
Yeah.
Yeah, Leonardo. Donatello was the one when he says Bossa Nova, and you learn he's smart because he listens to classical music and jazz or whatever. So I think it's just really neat. But I think it was friendship, the brothers, the father-son aspect of it all. So
I like that you picked up on that introduction of them because I didn't really pick that up as strong. But I'm
so
thinking,
good.
I didn't really either, but you're right.
Thinking back,
yeah.
you're right. It was a
Yeah.
very clever, minimal way to not have to exposit these characters, but just let them show who they are. That's a great observation.
I remember him making that joke about Bossa Nova. I had to Google it now when I'm older, but I was like, I caught it when I was younger. I understood like, oh, he must know things that the other ones have no clue about. So he was smarter or thought he was smarter than everybody else.
Oh, and real quick, before I forget, I forgot to write this down, but this really came more from playing the video games, but who has the coolest weapon? And who did you want to play when you played the video games as a kid to get their weapons? And
for me,
we know the answer is Leonardo. Okay,
Yeah.
Really? Not me.
Dual swords. Oh, really?
No, I'm always going Donatello. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got the
Yes,
reach.
the staff.
Yeah, the staff for
I s-
Donatello.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that had the longest reach for the video game because he could spear it out.
I think he
forward.
was the most OP in the video game, maybe.
Yeah, he
That's
was.
why.
Plus, it's just something about just a beaten stick,
Yeah.
And what the hell do you do with a sai?
Yeah, obviously the Psy was by far the weakest.
Make
No one
salad?
wants to be Raphael.
And you see how blunt they were when you see them up close. They look like
They were like bludgeoning tools.
they look like drumsticks.
Quick thank you to our tasty sponsors, Smooth Modelo, Sexy Woodford.
Sexy.
We like you both. We like you both a lot. All right. So let's. I guess one thing I wanted to bring up quickly because we've already Grizz, you brought up the thing about Jim Henson and how his creature shop made the turtle costumes. Can we just talk for a second about the kind of the insanity of the way those stunt people / actors were able to do all of that crazy shit in those costumes?
And 60 pounds of styrofoam.
I mean, that was kind of incredible. I mean, the stuff they were doing would have been pretty amazing for just someone just not wearing a costume at all.
Yep.
I'm highly impressed.
Highly impressed.
Yeah.
Like, and you would never see something like that today, right? I feel like if someone came out with a movie today that had like that kind of crazy costume choreography, so like that would be like a very novel concept.
I thought the choreography was unbelievable, especially when you think about how much weight those costumes were and how immobile they had to be to do all those things, and they still pulled it off. I read that they had their close-up ones, and then they had their medium, and then their far. Like, so if they're on the side of a building and they're doing all these crazy tricks, they were a lot more lean and more efficient to be able to move and do all those things. But still, it's like 40, 50 pounds of weight on top of you trying to do that stuff. That's nuts.
And it didn't look like they were slowed down. It really didn't. They did a good job at making them look very fluid. When they're fighting a foot soldier, they both looked the same level of fluidity. So yeah, credit to the costume people.
And thank you to Ben for sending me a quick screenshot because I do remember this. But at probably the midpoint, somewhere in the old farmhouse they're in when they're repairing themselves, Raph wakes up and everybody runs upstairs, and one of the turtles laughs really loud, like his face opens all the way up, and you see the guy's face and his mouth inside the costume head. So you see his teeth inside of teeth on
funny.
top of this face. It's amazing.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that.
Oh, it's
I don't
so
want
good.
it to be ruined.
Yeah, it's bad.
No, actually, I think I have seen that before.
So you guys ready for our instant classic segment flip the script, which I think should be a little interesting because, I mean, you guys really like this movie, and I also like this movie. Maybe not quite as much, but definitely liked it. So let's flip it. What did you guys not like about this film?
Ooh, man.
I think right off the bat it had to be the acting by the son and the dad.
Yeah, Danny was rough.
Yeah, Danny was really rough.
I thought the dad was good.
Yeah, I didn't mind
Dad was pretty good. Yeah, but I mean, I think just their chemistry back and forth. It wasn't until like the very end you were like, oh, I really feel like he gave a shit about his kid. But before he's like, oh, he's a punk ass kid. I don't know where did you get those headphones at. It's like I would ask my kid where he got brand new headphones at if I didn't pay for them. So I just thought that was a little off. But and then the commissioner or whatever was police chief, whatever it is, he was just way over the top and insane. God, what else was a little rough about this?
This is really difficult for me.
We give
really
it a good rating.
I know, but I can always tear something up.
That's just a couple characters, though. I don't think that was like hindrance to the entire film by any means.
I mean, I don't think there was any. I don't think a second was wasted. I think everything was in service of the plot. I'm trying to think about maybe Shredder and then that his number one guy, but no, they were good. They were good. I'm gonna have to think on this. I did not come prepared for Flip the Script.
It was an efficient
FTS.
90 minutes, so I'll give it that.
How about this? I thought April and Casey's relationship needed more life. Not life. It needed more development. She kind of went from 0 to 60 and back again. So like there was a scene where they're at the farmhouse and they're on the front porch, and she's like, hey, can you help me with something? And he's like, sure thing, toots. And then she looks at him and he's like, babe. And he just, he says a couple other kind of innocuous things. And then she's like, I'll fucking fix it myself. It's just like so mad at him, just like that. And it's like, okay, well, I'll buy that maybe if she's like, if he elicits that from her because she like likes him and is kind of turned on by him to where there's going to be like sort of more emotion. But they didn't sell it well enough. And then at the end, she's all like, all of a sudden she's like, just shut up and kiss me. And then like, well, what did he do? Is it just because you guys have been through this
playing hard
journey?
to get.
He's very coy.
Yeah,
very
it's
coy.
classic.
She was
they've
very
gone through.
yeah. And to be clear, I liked her a lot, and I like her a lot more now than I did when I was 8. It kind of snuck up on me a little bit, but no, she was great, and I thought she was a good actress too. But so I liked her, and I liked Casey Jones. I thought he was well cast. He was funny. He was not corny. He was like the perfect kind of tough, funny guy. But yeah, just their relationship, which I think was a very strong part of the movie, it needed a little bit more, I don't know, motive or setup, I guess.
Yeah, a couple more lines of dialogue in any of those situations. I think they were fun. They were quick. Like you could tell she was playing hard to get. He was being a cool kid, asshole kind of, and then he just charmed her at the end, or she charmed him at the end, I guess. But I loved Casey Jones. That was my favorite character by
he's
far.
great.
Oh my God.
I wanted to be him when I was a kid.
He was definitely the coolest. I mean, by far.
That mask design. Holy shit.
Yeah,
it's like, so good.
It's like the Predator mixed with Michael Myers or
then
something.
Then he carries around the golf bag full of just goodies, of baseball bats and random cricket, and it's so good.
And can we just, real quick, I just want to leave space for this. The funniest part of the movie is when Shredder falls into the garbage truck, and he's like, oops.
he just
crushes
him to death.
So good.
Yeah, cracks it with his,
So good.
Yes.
Yeah, that is Shredder gets finished rather savagely, I will say, especially for a child's film.
Yeah.
Or a
Once
children's
again,
film.
not a kid's
I give
movie.
credit to my parents. They always
yeah.
bought us the hottest toys when it came to these movies, and so I had every Ninja Turtle toy under the sun, including the golf bag that you could sling over Casey Jones's shoulder, and then all the things that went into it. It's so good.
Oh, here we go. This is the biggest one for me. I just forgot about this. I'm not buying the origin story of the Turtles and Splinter. I'm not buying that these turtles wandered into this goo and now they're all like, I get it. I'm not saying the movie needs to be realistic, but the backstory was a little lazy. And even if that's their real backstory in the comics, I want something a little more believable. I need something else that's going to cause these guys to be these ninjas and all this. So
yeah, that was outrageously broken when it came to the movie versus the comics and all that stuff. But the funny part was like Splinter's talking about being in Japan and then watching his master and learning moves and doing these things. And I was like, you didn't hit the ooze until you went to New York.
You're right.
So
he was just a rat.
You were just a rat. You weren't learning karate when you were, or whatever it was.
And then the savage Hirokosaki like kills this man and this woman. And then this rat scratches his face and he just chops the little ear off and just lets him go.
Yeah.
Like he would have killed the rat too, right? Right? So there you go. That's my biggest beef with the movie.
I think
is
we
the origin
we
story.
got there.
We got there. We did
We
it.
did. All right, so I'm gonna echo. I mean, I do kind of echo Roger Ebert, I guess. So the movie I thought was about as good as it could be, but I thought ultimately, even kind of for 1990, it took not many risks. I guess by making it a little dark, surprisingly dark. And we talked about that kind of child exploitation element of it, so that's a little bit of a risk. I'll give it that, but otherwise. Not really any risks, I guess, with the storytelling and the way the movie is put together. It's very A to B to C to D. Nothing very surprising. I think just overall, just the kind of the technical quality of the movie is pretty mediocre. The director is obviously not a very experienced film director. He's a music video director. Kind of looks like a music video, and a lot of shots and scenes. And maybe that's not a bad thing, but I don't think it's a good thing. The acting, not the best. Not terrible, but I can deal with it. But certainly didn't add any points. What else? I feel like I didn't get enough Shredder. Shredder was he's the big boss man. I got why he was so evil in the rivalry with Splinter, but I don't know. I just didn't get quite enough. He didn't say much, and sometimes that's good when a villain doesn't say much. But I just wanted more Shredder. Okay. And then the last thing I'm going to say, and I thought this was kind of interesting. I'm interested what you guys thought about this. But a lot of the references, right, that were made in this movie, and I'll call
Harrison Ford.
Well, no, but that was
a lot
an
of
'90s,
late 80s.
Was he the hot guy?
He must have
90?
been. 'Cause that would have been right after The Last Crusade.
Yeah.
So he was big on Indiana Jones and Star. Maybe Witness had come out by then. I'm not sure. Maybe that was later in the '90s. But it's just she was like, why can't I ever dream of Harrison Ford, right? And then she say that.
She did. But here, I think this is interesting. So the references I'm going to talk about that was like a contemporary reference that kind of made sense. There were several references in this movie that, first of all, would not land at all with children, and you contend this is not a children's movie, so maybe that kind of makes sense. And maybe they're catering to an older audience. But for example, there is a James Cagney reference. I don't think the 9-year-olds in 1990 probably knew James Cagney. There is a Grapes of Wrath reference.
Yeah, when he's talking about the farmhouse.
When he's talking about the
I never knew what
farmhouse.
that was when I was a kid. I was like, okay,
right.
Grapes of Wrath.
No kid knows what Grapes of Wrath is. There's a Gilligan's Island reference. None of these children were alive.
I loved watching Gilligan's Island growing up, though.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of.
But you get as someone with kids. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but every time you go see a kids movie, specifically that's marketed to kids, rated PG, there are always adult references for the fact that they know that there's a child and a parent at the theater. So I think that is kind of a baked-in thing. So I don't give it like a knock for that, but it is hard. It'll date a movie very quickly if you start to watch it and you're like, oh, okay, these are all obviously 80s, 90s references.
Yeah,
and I don't hear you knocking the movie for these. I just hear you kind of calling them out as interesting reference, or maybe you are detracting. I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, I'm nitpicking, obviously.
What are some of the other ones?
I mean, that's mostly it. I mean, I generally liked the movie. Grizz, did you have any more script flipping?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that means. Before we go there, I got to remind everybody, this is Critical Mess. We're talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the one that came out in 1990. I'm here with Brian. I'm here with Grizz. We're sponsored by Modelo. We are sponsored by Woodford Reserve. And next, we are going to another classic segment, the horribly and atrociously titled Rapid Fire. So I'm going to say some things, and I wrote down a lot of shit for this movie.
I got my own rapid fires.
Okay,
in this
great.
one, so.
Yes, please throw out
shoot.
stuff. But let's try just one time. Damn it, let's try and live up to this segment's name. And
Rapid
make this.
fire.
You know, we could have Ben get one of those like taboo like buzzers.
Yeah, that's
and then
not
like
a bad
he could just
idea.
like run like a 30-second.
Definitely not a bad idea. Okay, well this one has got to be rapid fire. So better New York movie, last episode. So I guess I'm sorry, that was 2 episodes ago. Vanilla Sky, or this film, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I think I mentioned in that episode that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was the better New York movie.
You did.
So I'm going to stick with that.
Yeah, I have to stick with this movie. I mean, as much as it showed, and I still want to visit New York, even looking at it in a disgusting, grainy, trash-filled city.
It's 2 different eras of New York. It's one coming out of the crime-ridden 80s and the other, 2000s. So. Both good ones.
Did you guys notice? I thought this was just kind of funny, but the opening of this movie is kind of eerily similar, and this would have come out first, so I wonder if there was any inspiration, but eerily similar to Die Hard 3. Just the way it's shot, the cuts, the things they show.
You talking about when they're stealing all the wallets and stuff?
Yeah, the opening montage of New York City. It's you remember right before the big explosion at the I think it's like a department store or something in Die Hard 3. There's like this montage of New York. It's just very similar.
It's like the classic long zoom. What do you call that, Grizz? When you it's a long zoom. Long zoom.
Yeah.
Long shot. Long shot. There it is.
There you go.
It's a classic long shot of like being way down a street and zooming way in and seeing just tons of people in different focal
it helps with
walking.
the compression, all of it. It makes it give you so much more depth. Yeah. Yep.
All right, next rapid fire. Or medium fire, whatever.
Crossfire?
Some sort of fire. Dumpster fire. So yes, Canadian wildfire. We can barely breathe here tonight.
Oh man, Ben is topical tonight.
Goodness gracious!
I wouldn't now we hear something about Ukraine.
So there are once again maybe I always just saw this as a children's movie. So Brian, once again, I got to remind people of your contention that it's not. But three very early dams in this movie. I mean, dam is one of the first words in this movie, and then you get 3 dams, I believe, within the first 15 minutes for sure. And I think they all come out of Raphael's filthy potty mouth.
When he loses his sigh.
Damn. Yeah, right.
Yeah, a lot of character building with those dams. But that's one of those classic words that they still do today on network TV and shows, is damn is the only one you can get away with.
I know, but you didn't get Dan in The Little Mermaid. I mean, that was a kid's movie I watched that came out a year before, and that's a kid's movie. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I think...
this isn't a kid's movie.
That's exactly my point.
Yeah.
He also drops a bitchin' at the end, at the very end.
Oh man, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, he does. I believe it's Raphael. It's got to be. He's got the dirty mouth.
Although I will say, bitch and bitchin' are two completely different words.
Bitchin' seems less severe.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Ben, we're on medium fire right now. Yeah, sorry, it was soon to be slow fire. Slow burn. Yeah, let's just change that. We're going to change the name of this segment right now.
Slow burn.
Slow burn. That's.
No, we need to at least start with the right intentions and deviate.
Here's this one little subtle thing that I think is worth bringing up. I love how the hat and trench coat is enough of a disguise for the turtles walking down the streets of Manhattan as if no one would notice it was this huge green-headed monster.
Well, Casey Jones says, what are you, some kind of punker?
Right.
Like he was a tweaker in New York City.
Was there a punker subculture that wore green?
Casey Jones's immediate reaction to him, like flipping him over and like seeing his reaction to like seeing a turtle without his hat on, like he had nothing shocked him in that city at that point. Mm-hmm. Like he was just completely, like he thought, what did he say? It was a mask though at one point. And then the more he fought him, he was like, oh, maybe you are a fucked up tweaker or whatever it was.
Punker.
A punker, yeah.
All of the 3 of the 4 turtle voice actors appear on screen in the movie. And Raphael's in the back of the cab.
Yeah,
that's
an incredible little Easter egg. Yeah.
And real quick, I know this is rapid fire, but I'm going to say something rapidly. That scene between Casey Jones and Raphael fighting is one of the best scenes in the movie. I love that scene.
Yeah, it is a great scene.
Yeah.
I agree.
He's going through his tools in his bag. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
I'll tell you another great fight scene is like the apartment fight scene with just the 3 turtles. That's a really good. And Casey Jones. This is the one where Casey Jones shows up to beat a bunch of ass.
It's the one that turns into the antique store fight.
Yeah, right. Yes, that was a cool. I mean, pretty much all the fight scenes in this movie were pretty solid.
They were all great, all well paced, and that has one of my rapid fires: the nunchuck showdown between that 1-foot soldier guy and Michelangelo. Great classic scene, holds up to this day. Because the foot soldier guy, you can just see how he's all his guys are watching him, and you can see how he's kind of starting to get nervous, like, I gotta really outdo this guy, and they're just going full ham on the.
Yeah, I think the 2 fight scenes that I loved were Raphael getting his ass kicked on the roof by the 40+ foot clan, and then Casey Jones beating the shit out of that the shredder henchman in the warehouse. That was awesome. Like he hit him falling into the boxes multiple times and then slowly pulling the golf club out.
Finds the golf club, yeah.
Oh, dude, I was like, as a golfer in the early 90s, I was just like, hell yes. Grab that golf club and beat the hell out of that dude.
Wait, you were a golfer in the early 90s?
Oh, absolutely.
Are you 50?
90, I think I was 8, so 95.
You were an 8-year-old golfer?
Yeah, I think it was 8. Not yeah.
I
played a
piece
lot.
of shit.
I know. You can thank my dad and Tiger Woods and all those guys. John Daly. I went to my first tournament was 1991. John Daly won here in Carmel. Fun fact.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
Boom, boom, boom. Here we go.
Crossfire. Yeah.
Here we go.
Good
Slow
game.
burn. All right. Brian, you brought this up earlier. I just want to call it out quickly, but the flashback footage and segment, just the turtle origin story. I mean, I thought it was just hilarious. I loved it when they're just like saying pizza, pizza, and radical, and they're just so poorly, just sort of like stop. Was that stop motion?
Radical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was. No, I think it was. Yeah, it looked almost like claymation.
Yeah, I think it was some sort of stop motion thing.
Stop motion. Yeah, because I don't think it was Jim Henson puppets. I think obviously that was the full size stuff. I think it was. Yeah, I'm gonna say stop motion.
That was definitely stop motion. That was maybe the weakest point of. I mean, I thought it was cool because I remember
It was quaint.
that.
It was funny. It's cute.
Yeah, it was cute and funny. Yeah, that was. I went ahead rapid fire though. I went back and I looked through the movie really quickly to see what they said at the end. He does say bitchin'. And I had to turn the subtitles on. He says bitching, and then all of them go, and then they start coming up with new ones. So they even catch themselves that was a bad word. Yeah.
Speaking of quotes from this movie, one of my very favorites is pork rind? Pork rind. Love that quote.
I like how they're like, they sense the fight coming. They're like, fight, kitchen. Like I never really kind of caught that when I was a kid. Like mom and dad are fighting. And so they just leave the room like kids. Yeah,
good one.
I thought that was good.
All right, this one is a really important question. Who had better hair, April or Casey?
Casey.
I would have said Casey when I was a kid, but might be April.
Yeah, April, she takes care of herself. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Oh, yeah.
He wasn't ready for that rapid of an answer for both of us. He's like, what do I do?
Oh, boy. Yeah, first time for everything. All right, back to our segment, Slow Burn. Here we go. Oh, yeah, just another reference. God, there was another reference. I brought up these old... There's a War and Peace reference, too. I mean, seriously. They lay on a lot of just, like, references in this movie that don't make a ton of sense.
I'm telling you, not a kid's movie.
Yeah.
I you know what? Before I forget, we've hit all my rapid fires except for one. There was a really quick scene where Shredder throws a knife into a television screen. Was that CGI? And if so, was that the only CGI clip in the entire... Because that definitely was not an actual knife hitting a screen. Did you guys notice that?
Not really, no.
I don't think I did notice
It was
that.
either some kind of cell shading...
In the warehouse or something?
Yeah, he's seen a huge bank of TVs, and he's getting frustrated that the turtles are sort of thwarting their plans.
Oh, man.
And he chucks that knife, and it just sticks right into that TV, and the TV shatters. But it didn't actually happen. So my question is that CG?
Oh, maybe.
Or was that some sort of like cell-shaded, like post-production sort of effect or whatever?
Maybe. I mean, it was right at that turn where everybody was trying out CG after Tron, I think was the
But there was no other CG in this movie.
So
it would be weird if that was the only
other than
one.
maybe the title sequences and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd say good catch.
How about... So Donatello calls Casey Jones a gack face. You guys ever call anyone a gack face?
I remember Gak.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was about to say. I remember Gak, that nasty...
I love Gak.
Disgusting slime.
I got
my
Gak
kids
in my
still love
stocking
to
for
death.
Christmas.
Gross. But this would have been pre-Gak, right? I feel like 1990.
Yeah, this was pre-Gak.
Yeah, I wonder if Gak is named after this film.
So let's send our researchers to find out. There were a lot of funny, interesting names. Hosebrain and stuff like that, you know.
Great.
Did you ever have little Jones that you had when you were a kid?
Oh,
I remember I called people a scuzz bucket. You ever heard of a scuzz bucket?
I don't know. It sounds gross.
It does.
No, great one-liners. I need to go back and read them, just use them for the kids.
I stole that one from Flight of the Navigator, by the way.
All right, here's a question for you guys. Help me understand this piece of dialogue. So there's one point toward the end of the movie where Donatello calls Casey Jones a claustrophobic, and Casey threatens to knock him out.
I've never looked at another man.
And says, "I've never looked at another guy before." Was he thinking he was calling him homophobic or something?
Well, he would have thought he was calling he would have thought he was calling him a homosexual, not a homophobic.
But claustrophobic, homophobic.
Yeah, so it's like a double.
Yeah, it
wrong.
doesn't make any sense.
No.
If claustrophobic.
I think it's pointing to how dumb Casey Jones is, and how.
You think it was that
insensitive he
intentional?
is.
You think it was that intentional? Might have been. You might be right.
Because he probably thinks homophobic means you're a homosexual.
You might be. Yeah,
And
you might be right about
this
that.
grease
Yeah.
Just to note, the two writers spent months, and I read this, months in hotel room in L.A. writing this script. So
And developing that one line.
And developing those one-liners in a hotel room together, I'm sure that would be wonderful.
That one caught me. That one caught me. Though I was like, "Well, that wouldn't come out today."
No, probably not. Probably not. I just want to point out, this is just a kind of a, maybe I'd call it a humble brag. I don't know. How many people in 2023 do you think have paid $4 twice to rent this movie on Amazon? I bet I might be the only one on a planet of whatever. What is it? 8 billion or something? 7 billion? However many billion.
You're definitely welcome on this podcast.
Yeah.
You definitely belong here.
Thank you.
You ordered it twice?
Yeah, I rented it. I rented it twice.
Why? Because you didn't watch it.
Because I watched it.
The time ran out and you wanted to watch it again?
No, because I just watched it. Remember, I was talking about I watched it like 3-4 months ago.
Oh, okay,
Just randomly.
Oh, I thought you said you watched it a few days ago.
And can I vouch for you? So Nick stopped at my desk Tuesday, and he's like, "Is it available anywhere?" And I told him it's free on Tubi, but you got to watch ads. And this gentleman, this class act over here, rather than this class act who does not have YouTube Premium and watches pre-roll ads and ads on his poker,
so I can be better at my job. Thank you.
Despite that, he chose to spend the money to rent the movie, and I applaud that.
I bought it for $7.99, so it's in my library now.
Thank you for that, Brian. That was very kind. I appreciate that.
We're doing this for you guys, the listeners. We're paying extreme amounts of dollars to watch these films.
This is critical mess, damn it, and we will spare no expense.
Spare no expense.
I watched it on Tubi with ads.
Grizz and Nick will spare no expense.
Yes, exactly. I can't stand the 90-second ads or 120-second ads. No way.
I think my favorite part of this movie was the pizza funeral.
Oh, when the I didn't get that when I was a kid. I didn't understand that penicillin, that it was moldy.
Right. I got it.
I finally got that this time.
Yeah, I weirdly got that. It was just so good as they slowly raised it to the ground and closed the lid.
Yeah, and they sing the little, whatever the funeral song's called.
I thought they were talking about some topping like anchovies or something that I just didn't know about, and they didn't like that topping when I was a kid. I didn't realize, it's moldy. Good scene.
Just to say, we talked about Danny a little bit. He's just such a turkey. He's just such a turkey, and he brings this movie down a little bit for me.
I don't think he's an actor.
No. Kind of like the kid in Rocky IV. Remember that? It's kind of that level of acting. That was a low blow.
That kid was
a low blow.
That kid was cringe.
Sorry, Danny. I didn't mean it. I'm almost done here, but I enjoyed taking notes on this one. But the tiny rat doing the karate, imitating his master, that is just precious. Did you guys enjoy that?
So good.
That was so good.
This is early vignette of just single lit, all black, and it was awesome. I just loved that he was reminiscing on this memory as if it was in his brain. And it was just the visual of that was in his brain. It's so good. I just loved it.
And a side note to that, what kind of person is the master of a rat?
Yeah, he was in like a bird cage.
Yeah, like who's a rat master?
He that guy. Yeah, I never caught that. He's a rat master. Maybe it's something Eastern.
Yeah, a master of rats. And a master of just one rat. You would think a rat master would have like thousands of rats.
He specializes just in the one rat.
Yeah, he's a one rat kind of guy.
Are rats rare in Japan, or are they just running rampant? Are they just a typical, domesticated pet?
Yeah, maybe it's like
Are we missing something there?
I don't know. I just thought we should talk about it. Okay, here's another just random little thing I noticed. In the climax of the movie, it's like right when Casey Jones is stealing the truck, that like janky, like Casio synth-sounding soundtrack song, it like glitches a couple times in like a really weird... And I went back and I watched it several times to make sure it wasn't my... like buffering or something going on.
Talking about like the
yeah. It's got that dirty, that nasty, like shitty-tuned synth.
It amps up the suspense and all that. But I didn't catch the glitch. I didn't realize there was a glitch.
And maybe it was purposefully like glitchy like that to make it more suspenseful or unsettling, I guess, which is possible. But I don't think so. It just sounded really bad.
I thought those build-ups were great. It was just like a single instrument, repetitive. And it was, I don't know what that's called, where they play the song before the scene ends, and then it picks up and it just explodes into the next scene to kind of build and I don't know what that's called, but I thought that was great. They did it at least 3 or 4 times with classic 80s soundtracks of just blowing it up as the scene changed over to Action New York or Action Scene or whatever it was. But
can we talk about how horny these turtles were for April?
Oh, Michelangelo was kissing that
He
TV
was
screen.
all about it.
She
And
called me
it's-
Mikey.
And can I tell you how kind of unsettling that is on like 7 different levels?
Yeah.
Like nothing about that sits well with me. And also, remember in the end of the movie when like Casey Jones is like making out with April,
And they're all cheering.
Wouldn't you think they'd all be just heartbroken and disappointed?
Yeah, weird.
No, man,
But they're
teamwork.
into it. No, I know it is. It is. There's something to that. You guys remember what the last line of this movie was?
Hang on.
Cowabunga.
Isn't it when Splinter says, "I made a funny"?
You got it.
Yes.
I made a funny.
Ha 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 ha! I made a funny.
Oh, right.
He's got a bit of a character arc. He was 6th on my list of
All right,
strong character.
Can we go
arcs.
back to that? Ben reminded me, but can we go back to that list? I want to know who else you had character arcs for.
Raphael was number 1.
Okay.
And again, the character arcs in this movie, there were so many of them that was one of the reasons I gave it an 80.
Yeah.
And then I'd say Casey Jones was number 2. And then Danny was number 3. And then Danny's dad had a pretty good little arc. He was so hard on his boy, and by the end,
And April.
yeah, and April, yeah, he changes by the end of the movie, and it added to the movie for me. And then April herself, hers was not very strong, but I think I don't know. I don't even know why I listed her. I had a reason, but I forgot what it was. She's kind of the same. Oh no. Here's why I listed her, because of her and Casey. At the beginning, she's totally turned off by this weasel, and by the end, she's been through and seen such crazy stuff that she's all in. She's like, you know what? Screw it. I'm this sort of newscaster, but I can get with this sort of grease monkey guy. I'd call that a character arc. And then Splinter would be number 6, merely because he would not have said "I made a funny" in the beginning when the turtles are all excited about their first foray, but then by the end, he's like, "I made a funny."
April
So
was right.
The
She
turtles
even-
taught him something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
April
yeah.
was right. She thought he had it. Like, what did she make a joke at the dinner table at the house or whatever about how, wouldn't Splinter think that was funny? And sure enough, he makes a little joke at the end. It's a great little callback.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And that was a good little scene too when they're talking about "you dirty rat," when he's doing the impressions, and he's
Yeah.
like, "You dirty rat," and she's like, "I bet Splinter would like that
Yeah,
one."
exactly. Yeah.
And then they're all like, "Oh my gosh!" And she's like, "It was a joke." Good scene.
And speaking of also Splinter, I just wanted to point out too the way he just hoes Shredder at the end of this movie is just it's gangster.
The final fight scene on the top of the roof is perfect.
Yeah, it's really good. And then the way Casey Jones just crushes him in that garbage truck, it's just savage. The climax of this movie, I think just in general, that's something worth pointing out. That was really good in this movie. The way the climax like builds and pays off, like pretty good, pretty well executed.
This is a solid 3-act structure movie, and that third act is really done as perfectly as it could be.
So there was a deleted scene, and I kind of liked the Shredder action scenes and how like dark and ominous he was. He never fought anybody except that one apprentice where he just like, oh no, that was the henchman. But Shredder never fought anybody till the end, right?
Yeah, but like
So-
he kicked their ass, and it was good escalation.
And he kicked all 4 of them's ass individually, and then all 4 of them came together, stood up, and then Splinter took him on.
And of course, Splinter uses that sort of next level, like use their weakness against them.
Yes, yeah. So what do you think? There was a deleted scene that I read about that, and I watched it, where Shredder takes on a slew of foot ninjas in the complex as training. And he just does like incredible acrobats and karate and all these things and kicks all their asses. Do you think that would add to his character, or do you think it was a nicer payoff that he didn't do anything until the very end?
I love that question because it brings me back to something Nick said, where Nick was saying that he wanted more Shredder.
Yeah.
And I can totally see that. And it kind of reminded me of I need more Luke Skywalker kicking Jedi asses in that one episode. And that is a very valid and admirable opinion, and I see it. For me, I am glad they took that scene out because the mystique of Shredder was so high by the time they get to that rooftop and you see him single-handedly take out those turtles. You're like, oh my gosh, like who's going to be able to beat this guy? So that's my answer, is I'm glad that the film editor should be applauded for removing that scene.
I would strongly agree with that. Yep.
But Nick might disagree.
But you might want to look
Because
that
that could
up
have been
on-
a badass scene.
You might want to look that up on YouTube.
Yeah,
just for
no,
fun.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the end of our new segment, Slow Burn.
Slow burn.
So with that, I have to ask you gents, do we have closing thoughts here about this film?
Bitchin'.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a
bitchin'.
bitchin' film.
Yeah.
Yeah, my closing thoughts are that I really strongly disagree with the critics calling it to be just a commercial and too simple. And I think that in another universe, this movie would have been made without the interesting Raphael nuance, without sort of more of a neutered, like, these are the four turtles, and they each kind of maybe talk a little bit different, but they're just four turtles, instead of like, wow, they're all very different from each other. And with the whole Raphael arc, I don't think they had to put that in. I think that's complex. The politics between the chief of police and April's boss to get April fired, to stop with the news story. There's a whole element of the movie that didn't have to be there. April and Casey's romance, that chemistry could have been terrible there, but it was really good. The point is, there's a lot of things that happened that were outside of just like, hey, we've got these four turtles. This IP of these four turtles in a comic, let's make a cool movie about it. They went a lot of places they didn't have to go. And I give the movie credit for doing that, for taking risks, and just for really doing a good job giving those turtles personalities and just New York, man. New York in 1990, wow. Awesome.
Absolutely.
And it's highly, highly rewatchable. That's the last thing I'll say about it, is that says a lot about a movie to me. If it's how rewatchable a movie is, that's like a significant portion of how highly I'll rate a movie. So.
Yep. I watched it twice this week, and I absolutely agree with all that stuff. I think it was a lot of fun. I was expecting to rewatch this 25 years later, 30 years later, and be like, did not hold up. Not CG. The stunts didn't hold up, whatever. Costumes look like shit. But it all did really well. Like, I was really impressed by all of it. And I think watching this with the kids, they were reacting to certain things, what they thought was funny. And then me remembering all these scenes with Casey Jones trying to sleep in the car, and like him flirting with April, or all the turtles and all their individual personalities, which is hilarious because Raphael's the only one with a super thick New York accent, but they're all from New York. But God, it was just so much fun. I don't know, 85 out of 100. I still strongly feel like that's a great rating. I expected to go into this going maybe 60s, but I was really pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, and I echo a lot of what you both said. I liked it, maybe not quite as much as you all, but I definitely would have rated this higher if I had the nostalgia for it, which I don't. I do for the Turtles, but not this particular film, as it were. So, and it is, it's a great New York movie, and it definitely has that going for it. But it's no Sweet Smell of Success, as I have recommended.
That's on my list. I can't wait to watch that.
Yes, that's just, I know I've hyped that up, but I think I was taken with it. Damn good New York movie. Well, we've made it through another episode of Critical Mess, and we did not prepare before this episode with next week's movie. So
yeah,
well,
let's
did 3 this week, so let's calm down.
I have made an executive decision.
Oh, okay.
Oh shit! Okay.
Unless you guys don't agree.
I strongly agree.
I was looking at the list just now, but
yeah,
go for it.
I have made an executive decision, and because someone brought this movie up to me, and my uncle, actually, shout out to my uncle.
Hey, what's up, Dave?
Yeah, Steve.
Hey, what's up, Steve?
But good try. I mean, you almost got it. There's a V in there. There's a V. So
Mike, John, yeah,
I have an Uncle Mike too. Yeah.
That's it.
Nailing it here. So my executive decision is we're going to watch and talk about Troy.
Ooh, all right.
Oh man, I need to see that again.
Yeah, and I think we haven't done kind of a big historical,
You're right,
epic.
It's a new genre for us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
I don't think it's. I mean, Greatest Showman is historical, but it's not like an epic.
Oh, it's totally different
it's
movie
musical.
from Greatest Showman. Yeah, totally different.
So I think it'll be fun. Eric Bana, Brad Pitt, the great Brian Cox. Let's get it, right?
Ooh, and it just barely meets our criteria.
It does.
Perfect.
But it does. And it's a good day for the Crows.
I'm excited to watch this, man. I do remember watching this in theaters and enjoying it.
I remember being disappointed.
Oh, really?
Because I was wanting another Gladiator, I think. I was like,
I don't
Gladiator
remember
number
watching
2.
Gladiator and having. I don't remember where or when I watched Gladiator, but I need to rewatch that soon.
Oh, I was
because it's been years.
I was
since
18, 19, watched that. It blew my mind. And every movie that came out after that, I wanted to be another Gladiator. So anyway, so we'll see what I think about it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say anything about what I thought about this movie because we're going to talk about that next week. on Critical Mess. Thank you all for joining us once again. Thank you to our listener. We love you so much. Please keep listening, and we're going to keep doing this. Thanks, guys. We are out.
See ya.
Later, gang.